So get this, podcast listeners. We're going to end this podcast today with a news story that is linked to the Clintons. And it's linked to the Clintons to the extent that I'm not going to say that the Clintons are responsible for this because I can't say that because I don't know, right? And I shouldn't say that. But the police are investigating the suicide of a reporter. And the reporter, this just happened, okay? So the article is dated just a couple of days ago. Police are investigating the suicide of a reporter who broke that Clinton Tarmac story. So if you recall, Donald Trump was running against Hillary Clinton. And when he was running against Hillary Clinton, there was a story that broke. And the story had to do with emails, Clinton emails, a server, and so forth. And then in addition to that, there was an investigation. Lots of investigations with the Clintons, let's face it. And there's a reporter, and the reporter found out that Bill Clinton was going to be meeting Loretta Lynch on the tarmac because they both had separate flights. And Bill Clinton was going to meet her. Obviously, the whole purpose was to convince Loretta Lynch to not bring charges against his wife because she was in the middle of an election. So here's what the article says. This is from the Daily Wire. Law enforcement officials in Alabama are investigating an apparent suicide by the reporter who broke the bombshell story in 2016 that former President Bill Clinton secretly met with then Attorney General Loretta Lynch on a Phoenix, Arizona tarmac in the run-up to the presidential election while his wife, then candidate Hillary Clinton, was under federal criminal investigation. Criminal investigation, folks. At 8:13 a.m. Saturday, the Hoover 911 center received a call of a person down at a residence on Scout Trace. Hoover police and fire personnel arrived to find the 45-year-old reporter dead, Alabama reported. Hoover police, Lieutenant Keith, I can't say his last name, looks like Kresbliba, said the death is being investigated as a suicide. The reporter's last name is Sign, S-I-G-N, who played football at the University of Alabama, moved to a local ABC news station in Alabama in 2017 after working at a news station in Phoenix, Arizona. The New York Post reported, while there, Sign, again, that's the reporter, broke the major 2016 presidential campaign news that Bill Clinton met with Lynch on the tarmac of Phoenix's Sky Harbor Airport while the then AG was investigating the use of a private email server by Hillary Clinton, the former president's wife and the Democrat presidential candidate at the time. Sign went on to write a book about the encounter titled Secret on the Tarmac. Sign told Fox News, okay, get this. He told Fox News last year that he knew something had occurred that was a bit unusual on the tarmac. It was a planned meeting, Sign said. It was not a coincidence. The book details everything that they don't want you to know and everything that they thought you'd forgot. But Bill Clinton was on that plane for 20 minutes, and it wasn't just about golf, grandkids, and Brexit. There's so much that doesn't add up, he said. He then sat and waited in his car with a motorcade. Her air stairs came down, most of her staff gets off, and then gets on as the Secret Service and FBI are figuring out, how in the world are we supposed to handle this? What are we supposed to do? Well, in a normal democracy that's functioning, Bill Clinton would have been arrested and Loretta Lynch would have been arrested because he was interfering with a federal investigation. Sign, who's the reporter, said that he received death threats over his reporting. Said that the story isn't about right or left, Republican or Democrat. It's about right and wrong in journalism. And here's the thing I want you podcast listeners to listen to and understand. Sign says, the reporter's name is Sign. It's very confusing, but its last name is Sign. He says, quote, "My family received significant death threats shortly after breaking this story. Credit cards hacked." He said, "My children, we have code words that we developed. We have secret code words. and that way they know what to do. This guy, and this has been reported several times, was terrified for his life ever since he reported this story in 2016, and has been writing a book and doing other writing ever since. And then just mysteriously, ladies and gentlemen, quote unquote, commits suicide. But because this suicide happened in the state of Alabama, there is actually an investigation going on with the police. The police are investigating to find out, well, was it a suicide? I mean, was there a reason that this guy depressed? Was he sad? I mean, what's really going on here? And all I can tell you, podcast listeners, is it sure seems to me, I don't have any proof and I'm not going to make any suggestions. I'm just going to say this. It sure seems to me that when you wrong the Clintons, that lots of people end up, dead. It's kind of like the whole Vladimir Putin thing, right? If you decide to buck Vladimir Putin, you end up being poisoned. I think most of his opponents have been poisoned and either suffer terribly from that poison and die, or are so sick they probably wish they were dead.